Hi Emma, and welcome to our first staff focus. It's just a little interview just to find out more about you and your role in the advanced study.
Thanks, Claire. Thanks for inviting me.
No, you're very welcome. So what is your role in the advanced study?
What am I? So my title is Senior Project Manager.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm meant to have, I do have oversight of the whole study. So every aspect of it, I'm supposed to be aware of and directing the study along with the other members of the project board. So I have all oversight of what's happening in the clinical area when our participants come into the clinic, how we recruit staff, what we do with our funding, and it's all working with other people. It's not me on my own making decisions. My role is to make things happen and try and sort out any problems as we go along, but just having that oversight of everything to make sure all elements of the study are working well and that we're using our funds, our charitable funds effectively, and making sure we produce good quality research at the end of the day.
Oh, brilliant. So what is your day-to-day role like?
I live in Wiltshire.
Mm-hmm.
But I work up at Stamford Hall in Leicestershire, or Nottinghamshire, I think it is actually. So I travel up on a Monday morning. I'm in the office Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I come home Wednesday night and I work from home Thursday, Friday. And that's a really lovely balance for me. It means I get to see participants coming in. Our clinical team look after them, but I have oversight of what's happening clinically. I meet with Alex Bennett, who's the chief investigator on the study, and every day is very different. So first thing I do is just check everyone's okay, any problems I need to be aware of. Lots of meetings. So I have meetings with Alex Bennett, who's the chief investigator. Some of the other co-investigators might need to have a catch up with. I meet with the data management team, just check how things are going there. Are we getting through the data? Any staff issues? So I will just see if there's any problems I need to help with, and just generally keep an eye on everything, just make sure everything's working. Troubleshoot something if someone's not sure. Let's say our DEX machine's broken down, and I will sort of help direct people into how to get that sorted out. And I meet with the project board once a week. We have a project board meeting once a month. And we also attend our advanced charity meetings as well and keep them informed. Okay. I also host some participant panel meetings, not that often, but we have just set that up to make sure that we get views from our participants into the direction of the study as well. So really varied, which is what I love about it, I have to say.
But sounds like you're the pin that keeps everyone going.
Absolutely, spinning plates, I call it.
Yeah, perfect. So before the advanced study, what type of roles did you do?
All in healthcare. So yeah. My background's nursing. So I qualified as a nurse in 1990. Most of my nursing was in the cardiology field, looking after people after a heart attack or any heart problems. Then I went on to do cardiac rehabilitation, which was working with patients, who needed to recover after their operation, whether they had heart surgery or a heart attack. And then I went into cardiology research, and I probably started in research in 1999, I think it was, just before millennium. And I've been a research nurse, and I've been in research since then. So I've mainly worked in universities. I worked a lot of research into high blood pressure and cohort studies. So another study where I followed up a cohort of a tri-ethnic cohort in northwest London to look at their cardiac health over a 20-year period. Then I did a bit of time in the commercial sector. So I worked as a project manager, a clinical project manager for a US medical device company. It was a device that was put in the artery here to lower blood pressure. And that was the job I worked in just before I started with the advanced study, actually. So pretty varied, but all in healthcare, and majority of my time in research. So varied background. And I've must admit, I've enjoyed all my work.
Thing. It sounds like the advanced study was exactly kind of your bag and exactly what you...
Do you know what? And it came around at just the right time for me. So I'd worked, like I said, in healthcare, in research, worked in the commercial sector. That didn't feel... I knew quite soon as I went into the commercial sector that I wasn't someone who could work with where the focus was for sales and to make money, a US device company. So when I heard about Advance, I was like, this is much more what I want to be doing in my life. I want to be doing something that uses my skill set, but also is something worthwhile working for, really.
So yeah, how did you hear about the role?
I used to work at Imperial College years before, and I really enjoyed working with Imperial College. So I went on their website and I saw the job, and I also saw the job in these companies that advertise all jobs. So it came up in a few places, and I thought, this is really something I want to go for. So I got in touch to find out a bit more about the job. And that was coming up to my 2-year anniversary. So I've only been in the study for 2 years. So I think I started maybe the first week in August 2 years ago. So yeah, really enjoying it so far. So.
And what's your favourite part of the role?
Working for a worthwhile cause.
Yeah.
You know, that was high up on what I wanted to do. And I know it sounds cheesy, but the team are amazing. So from the project board to the clinical team, to the admin team, to the recruitment team, to the data team, everyone's in this for the right reasons, and everyone is very committed to this study.
So what sets this study apart from other medical studies, in your opinion?
It's a unique study, longitudinal. So longitudinal means we study people over a period of time in a cohort study. And it's evaluating the effect of combat trauma on a range of health indicators in military personnel who served in the Afghan war. So it is unique in that it's the only worldwide longitudinal cohort with that focus. I mean, there's been other studies that maybe looked at one element, but we are really looking at, we'll produce high levels of evidence that will influence future healthcare.
And why do you think this study is very important?
It'll provide high levels of evidence. It will provide a wide range of longitudinal data. So it will give us socio-demographic data, physical health and mental health outcome data, and provide us with evidence for any instance of risk of diseases and non-disease related outcomes. So it's translatable to other groups, really. So I think what's important is that all our practice and healthcare delivery is evidence-based. And this study is so important because it will provide that longitudinal evidence of all these factors. So,
what's the most interesting thing you found out on the advanced study so far?
It's what we found out as far as data. We're still working through the data. So, we're not there yet. We've looked at our first paper, which is looking at whether our trauma casualties, military, have an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. We've written our first manuscript, so that's interesting, but it has to be peer reviewed. But that's only a start. There's lots more things that we're going to find out, but we're not there yet with all the elements. Most interesting things are to come, I have to say.
Exciting. And what's your hypothesis for the results of this study in the short term and the long term?
As a longitudinal study, we're going to be looking at the long-term outcomes of physical battlefield trauma casualties compared to a non-exposed group, so a comparison group. So those who served alongside the guys who had battlefield trauma, but maybe weren't physically didn't experience physical injury, but they served alongside them. So we're expecting to demonstrate there's an increased risk of cardiovascular disease in the injured group, and also cardiovascular events, probably increased risk of osteoarthritis and other different mental health outcomes as well, which are they're the three main elements of this study that we're looking at really. We're also going to look at long-term quality of life outcomes and occupational outcomes as well. But that's our aim, is to see whether long-term outcomes are different between those two groups.
Long-term studies like this, why are they important for medical research and in terms of veteran welfare?
So there's been lots of studies that have looked at cross-sectional data, so sort of snapshots of, how people are after exposure to X, Y, Z. But long-term studies are really important because what you need is that long view of what happens rather than that snapshot. That only gives you limited information. That longitudinal data, whereby there's the exposure, 5 years down the line this happened, 10 years down the line this happened, 15 years, and that's what we're interested in, is that longevity of the effects of that combat injury. It's hard to do longitudinal studies, as you imagine, over a 20-year period. You have to keep a whole team of people employed to manage that study. So it's expensive to run a longitudinal study, but it's extremely important to get that bigger picture and that evidence over a period of time.
Yeah, and I can imagine for the participants, that's dedication. That 20 years is, it's quite a lot. And so what are you excited to kind of find out during the advanced study? Is there any particular area that you're really looking forward to kind of finding those results out?
Unexpected results are always interesting. So we sort of have our hypotheses, and we suspect, we're there to prove it right or wrong.
Yeah.
And I think anything that where we show that something maybe wasn't as we expected is always interesting for me. Rather than the outcomes, I'm excited about us producing good quality research, because without that, you'll always question your results.
What would be your best piece of advice for the participants that are taking part?
I would say just don't underestimate how important every individual is to this study. I think it is a case of all our participants, we've got 1,145 of them.
Wow.
Every single one of them are important to this study, and to not underestimate how important you giving up that day of work or that day of your holiday leave to come and see us and to spend the day with us and allow us to collect this data on you, how extremely important it is to us, and to your fellow participants and also future serving personnel who have combat injury. What you're providing us is extremely important data. So that's my best piece of advice. Don't underestimate, don't think, they don't need me, there's others participating, I'll give this one a skip and maybe join you in 3 years. Really, to understand how important everyone's visit is to us, is our best piece of advice, really.
How was the advanced study team recruited? Like, how big is the team? I'm sure participants, they see people coming in and out and they don't actually know who the team actually is.
That's a good question, actually. So how were they recruited? So the study started a while ago when the rehabilitation centre was in Headley Court. So I obviously wasn't involved in recruiting staff at that point, but I have been in the last couple of years. We've had people in the team who have been there from the start. So some of our admin team and some of our recruitment team have been in the study from the start. But other than that, people come and go in any walk of life, in any jobs. But as everything else, we recruit by advertising the roles, and we always get a good response. I think, again, because people like the idea of the study and that it's something something good to do. But as far as how many are in the team, so we've got a growing team, actually, which is great. As the study gets bigger, hopefully our team will get bigger and to try and meet the demands of the study. So if I talk you through the structure, so we've got the advanced trustees, the charity, there's about 5 or 6 members there. We have the project board, which consists of Alex Bennett, who's the chief investigator, Christopher Booth, who helped set the study up with Alex. They dreamt up the whole thing. He's a consultant cardiologist down in University of Bournemouth. We've got Nicola Fear, who leads on the mental health aspects of the study. She's based at King's College. Paul Cullinan, who has an interest in occupational respiratory disease, is on the project board. Anthony Bull, who works for the Centre of Blast Injuries at Imperial College. I attend project boards, and we've got another project manager called Maya, who oversees, she works with the charity, but she also oversees the study, finance, HR, comms aspects. We've got a clinical team, which consists of 3 nurses and a healthcare assistant. So the 4 of them work really well together and see all our participants. We haven't had any changes in that team since I've been there. So there'll be familiar faces now when people are coming back, which is lovely. We've got a data team. We've got 2 new data managers. We're at the stage now where our data is growing. So our data management team is going to have to grow with it, really. So we've got 2 new members of team there. We've got a data analyst. We've got a medical statistician who's invaluable to the study and helps everyone out. Our recruitment team, we've got 2 people working at King's. One of them is actually a PhD student working on the advanced study, and the other one's a research assistant, and they help recruit those hard to reach participants maybe. We've got admin support, so we've got 3 people. Some of them work part-time, but so probably 2 equivalent admin. They're the ones who do all the bookings for our participants coming in and make sure we get the results sent out. And then we've also got some postdoc researchers. So there we've got more, that's the team that's growing, because as our data grows, we need more people to look at that data and to look at fresh eyes. And so we've got 2 or 3 postdocs, researchers, pure researchers working on data. And all of that team are funded by the grants applied to us to fund the whole study. We've also got other people on the periphery, so we've got other people who are working on our data but maybe aren't employed by Advance, and that field will grow as well. And we have collaborating researchers at different universities, so we've got team at Imperial College who are collaborating on all sorts of things with us. So that's the core team, but like I say, it's growing all the time really as our data's growing.
Yeah, I don't know why I just assumed that everyone would be from like a military background, but it sounds as if like it's more of a like a clinical like background. Like
no, none of us. I just think Alex Bennett and is military. Christopher Booth was in the military. Everyone else, no, not military background. So yeah, we've got a real mixture of people, which is great. That's what we need.
Is there any like challenging aspects of the study? Obviously, I imagine logistics is with kind of you being home based and also then having to travel there.
Yeah, challenging aspects. I mean, it's always like those plates, keeping those plates.
Yeah.
The most challenging is keeping our participants coming back, keeping tabs with where they are. Obviously, those who are still serving may still be deployed and changing address quite frequently. So our most challenging is keeping abreast of what where our participants are, and making sure we keep in touch, that we have their most up-to-date contact details. Because if you don't see them from 3 years at a time,
3 years, a lot happens. Yeah.
So I would say that's, they're busy people. They're either in busy jobs or they've got childcare responsibilities. So it's really difficult for us to keep in touch with them and keep that enthusiasm for returning to study going.
So I know some of the participants, they've lived through those traumatic experiences, and how does your team prepare to support them through those mental health kind of issues and having to kind of relive aspects of that trauma again?
Our clinical team are all research nurses, and some have had mental health training as well. The team are very sensitive. They're very aware that some of the questions we ask can provoke some sort of feelings from our participants. They're very experienced now at providing support in the clinical area, and also signposting them to get any support they may need, when they leave us. They're only with us for a day, although we build up a rapport, we're not there after they go home. So we definitely give them signposting for organisations that may offer help. If we have someone who is really showing some trauma and it's evident, and we're concerned about them, we have a support network within the DMRC at Stamford Hall that we can call upon if we're worried about a participant. So yeah, I think our team are very well supported as far as how they can support participants. And I think they support each other. Mm-hmm. So we have had some upsetting situations when we're dealing with some of our participants. And I think the only way they do is they support each other, the clinical team. So they might debrief after the day and just talk it through with each other. We've got a fantastic clinical team. They know who they're dealing with. They know how to support the individual participants and also support each other. They know, I think they do it really well.
So what have you learnt about veterans and military personnel so far during the study?
My experience, my genuine experience, is just how much people want to help their, fellow military personnel or as veterans, give something back. So the amount of times that I say, why did you take part in this study? Especially the veterans feel like, the military was good to me. I want to give something back. I want to help my, fellow veteran and understand the effect of this traumatic experience they all must have experienced. So yeah, that's what I hear, and that's what impresses me most.
The challenges of keeping everyone in touch in that 3-year gap between. Is there any other challenges that you kind of you're expecting to kind of come up along the 20 years?
I think keeping everyone engaged with the study, and I think even if people want to come back, we want and see us on a regular basis. I think keeping people engaged as well and keeping them informed as to what's going on. Now, a lot of guys who have served and still serving are bombarded with lots of requests to join research studies and do this, that and the other. And what we want to do is make them feel that they're part of this special group, and they are a special group. They're a unique group, and it's keeping that cohort engaged and wanting to come back and wanting to hear about the results, really. I think that's going to be our biggest challenge. And as the study gets longer, the spaces between the visits get longer, that's going to be our biggest challenge, is keeping people coming back for that amount of time, really. We have a participants panel, as I mentioned, we've had, which we started up last year, and that's been invaluable, as far as getting their advice on how we keep them engaged, really. And funnily enough, we had a meeting yesterday. That's our second meeting. We had our first meeting in January, second meeting was yesterday. And again, I come away so enthused by their input into, what we want to know is on an individual basis, what our results are. We want to hear the study findings in a meaningful way. And it's all we sort of knew that, but actually hearing the sort of their enthusiasm and hearing just how they want to receive the results. They don't want to go on a Zoom. They want to just sit and read an easy piece of paper to tell them. Some want the academic paper to read. Everyone's going to be different. So it's about us finding out how from them, and we've got a real mixture of people in our participants panel, which is fantastic because we get varied responses to all our questions. And what's important for us is to make sure that we address everyone's sort of needs, really, in understanding what's happening with the study, and for them as an individual and for them as a group of this important and unique group, basically.
As a project manager, how do you sustain that study and the team over a 20-year period? That's that's
very good question.
How do you even plan for that?
It's a very good question, and as with any long-term project, it's about keeping it fresh and relevant and not to lose focus on what we're trying to achieve. I think that's for me, keeping it fresh, I think, is the most important thing for all of us. You know, I need to keep my enthusiasm fresh. I need to remind myself why I'm doing this job and what the outcome is. You know, for me, what's important to me is that we produce good quality research. For someone else, it's that they enjoy coming into work and that they give them good coffee each day. You know, it's down to those things, isn't it? What floats our boats are all different. We're all different. And I think it's just communicating with our team who are on the ground, the project board, the advanced charity, and our participants, and make sure we're all in alignment and making sure that we keep it as fresh and relevant. Keep listening to people and understanding, and good leadership. We need good leadership to keep something going for 20 years. And I think we've got that with Advance. Alex Bennett is our chief investigator. His enthusiasm will keep us going for a long time. But yeah, I think just that longevity is just keeping everyone happy at the end of the day and feeling like they're fulfilled in their work. That's what will keep it going.
Thank you very much for your time, and we really appreciate it. And good luck with the study. And
Great. Hopefully see you again, Claire, and we can give you some updates as things progress. And when we get some papers published, we can come back and give you a bit more updates as to how things are going.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. Thank you very much.